Hi, guys.
Howdy there.
Welcome to our Facebook Live event. We are coming at you with the fourth part of our Symbis study that we've been doing. And tonight we're going to talk about communication. The title is Can You Say What You Mean and Understand What You Hear? Sometimes we think it should be so easy, so natural, and yet we struggle. Even though we speak the same language, we both are English speakers, we end up oftentimes not getting it. In case you don't know, I'm Marcy. This is my husband, Chris, and we have been married 28 years. We're passionate about helping couples build strong, faith-centered relationships. And as I already told you about the topic, it is part of an ongoing series. The series is based on this book. It's called Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts. We just refer to it as Symbis for short. Symbis, the book, there's also an assessment, which we'll refer to again later on. So tonight's icebreaker question, Chris.
Okay. Well, not a question yet, but we are talking about what's a funny miscommunication that we have had before, and one that I chuckle at every single time is Marcy really wants to tell me something, and she'll say, "You know what I'm thinking?" And I always say, "Nope, I have no clue. I'm not a good at charades person or anything like that, so I don't like guessing. I'm not good at it, and that helps break the ice. We've learned to use that to kind of break the ice. And Marcy will go, "Okay, right," and she'll explain out exactly what she wants to say or what she's thinking. So we want to invite you to join in the comments and talk about this question. And it's, have you ever had a big miscommunication with your spouse that was funny, or at least later on was funny? Put it in the comments, and we'd love to laugh at it with you.
You know what's funny is that even though he says he doesn't have any idea what I'm thinking, after 28 years, we often do have a fairly good guess of what the other person
that's very true. Very
is
true.
Thinking. But yes, neither of us are mind readers, so it's best to just be clear.
That's true.
All right. We are going to talk to you about the differences between men and women in our communication styles. I'm sure none of you knew that we had different ways of speaking to one another.
Shocking.
Right. So we're going to explain to you what report talk is, which is typical for the man.
Right. A report talk is men usually just like to get to the facts, the task, and the solutions. Sometimes we verbalize as guys like to be fixers. And we're hearing something, so all I'm thinking about the whole time I'm listening to the few bits and pieces that I get together in the head is, how can I fix this? Instead of, or what can I do to work with this situation? Rather than the rapport talk, which is women are really good at.
Okay, yes, this is true. Now, what's frustrating to a guy, as he was saying, report talk, they tend to want the headlines. Right. They want you to get to the point. Whereas, okay, so that's report talk. Get to the point. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. Women are wanting to share not just what happened, but how it happened, who it happened with, how we felt about what was happening. You get the point? There's a lot more going on there than just the facts.
As we're doing this, we're thinking of suggestions or examples, but that was a perfect example of a report talk, because I read exactly what I needed to say. What is report talk? It's more about facts, tasks, and solutions. Well, what guys need to know more than that, right? and then you went and described the whole thing in
Exactly.
detail. I just thought that was very funny.
Yes. Perfect example of the differences in our
That's
communication
right.
styles.
That's right.
All right. So, understanding these styles can help reduce a lot of the conflict when you realize, oh, okay, he wants the facts and maybe he doesn't have time for all the details. But also, it gives the guy a chance to say, oh, okay, I don't need to worry about fixing
Right. Right.
or getting to the point here. She's just trying to connect with me.
Yes.
And that will help you guys smooth out some of those bumps if you can remember that.
That's right.
Now, the second thing we're going to share tonight is some basic communication skills. And this is good for not just couples, but all
Well,
relationships.
exactly. Exactly. Okay, I was going to say this goes with what we're talking about here, the basic communication skills. Um, I was thinking of the video that we've seen, we've shared in different classes on this, is the nail
Mm.
on and where the lady has a nail in her forehead, talking about how painful it is and how it snags all her sweaters, and he just wants to tell her the whole time, pull the nail out, and it'd be solved the problem. He has to sit there and listen to her.
So that again goes back to report and rapport talk.
Yes,
Right.
but
And now we're,
also
yeah.
with the communication basics here, we're talking about two different skills that we need to know.
Mm-hmm. So the first part is clarifying content. What do we mean by that? It's telling the other person what you heard them say. Because sometimes what we heard them say is not what they meant for us to hear. So clarifying content is to repeat back or summarize what you heard them say. Now, we're going to give you a little demonstration of what clarifying content means. And Chris is going to be the one to clarify what he hears me saying. So let's hear how he does. All right. So today we went bowling. But on the way to bowling with the boys, I realized I didn't have my socks. So I was not going to be able to go bowling. However, we went ahead and got to the place. The boys played 3 games. We had a pretty good time. I enjoyed watching them.
Okay, so to clarify your day today with the boys, that you got to go bowling, but you forgot your socks, but you had a fun time anyway.
Right, right.
Watching the boys.
Yes, yes, because I couldn't play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think he got it? I think he did. Pretty good job.
Yeah.
All right. Now on this next one, I'm going to share, Chris is going to share something with me, and I'm going to show you the next skill, reflect feeling. And that means to acknowledge the emotion that you hear your spouse saying. So, not just, okay, this kind of falls right in line, really, with what we were just talking about report and rapport. Okay, so reflecting back, the feeling goes along with the rapport. What emotions are there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Chris is going to tell me something and then I will try to get the feelings.
So today I was in the shop. It wasn't very busy, and it was it was a little frustrating by not. So we had to do a lot of cleaning, just talking a little bit, but did I was able to do a few things on my list on in between customer and clients and things, but overall it was just a pretty slow day.
Okay, so a slow day is usually kind of boring for you. And I heard you were a little frustrated.
Yes.
But I also heard you were kind of productive too. You got some things done.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So, how did I do? Did I get that right? All right, excellent. So, there's an example of the two communication basics that you need, and that is clarifying the content. So, telling them what you heard them say. And the second part was
Reflecting the feeling.
reflecting the feelings. So, what emotions were being expressed, right?
And that's important since the ladies probably learned to clarify the content a little more, and guys need to learn to reflect those feelings
Mm.
a lot more
Mm.
better.
Mm-hmm. Very good. All right.
So we're going to go over some questions right now. So our first one is, which idea was new to us tonight out of these different things? The communication basics of clarifying the content, reflective feeling,
Mm-hmm.
or the men and women's communication styles,
Report or
report or
rapport.
rapport.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I know it was new in thinking about the rapport, listening and building up the feelings,
Mm.
listening for those feelings and acknowledging those
Mm.
while you were speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was, and probably some ways, I think I'm better at it now than we first got married. But when we first heard about these concepts, but we've definitely worked on them for sure, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So, which concept do you think will be the hardest to apply? And as we were talking about this beforehand, I think the very same thing that he said was helpful was also something that is kind of hard to apply because you're coming at it from your your female wiring or your male wiring, and you kind of got to fight against that. You got to be really intentional to not just, as a guy, only tell the facts,
That's right.
or as a woman, not not listen for. Well, I was going to say listen for the feelings, but that's the easy part for you, for you if you're a woman. Um, so yeah, write down in the comments anything that you think is was helpful, and also what do you think will be really challenging for you. So the next question.
Do you tend to use your head or heart more when listening or expressing yourself?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like I said, it goes a lot, largely along physical lines and types of communication. Although I think love languages and different like things like that can probably enhance that too. The way you talk and where you communicate with each other, the different styles of communication.
Whether you use your head more or your heart.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think that definitely tends toward male and femaleness,
Yeah.
because women tend to be emotional and men tend to be logical. But of course, it's not across the board. There are exceptions to all those rules.
Mm.
But as a general statement, yes, women are more with their heart and men are more with their minds, their logic. So, when do you feel most understood?
I feel most understood when you repeat back to me what I've said to make sure because sometimes I think out loud,
Mm-hmm.
and when you repeat that back to me, then that assures me that you understand.
Okay. So when I say what I heard you saying, then you realize that, hey, she was paying attention, and that makes you feel understood.
That's right.
Good. So, what is the thing that makes you feel least understood? We were talking about this earlier beforehand, and really, I was going to answer both of those questions.
Yes,
So, he's doing really well.
I am.
But I will tell you what makes me feel least understood, and that would be if he is distracted when I'm trying to talk to him. If he was, finishing up an email or reading an article and I don't have his attention, and I know I don't have it because his eyes aren't on me, then that definitely doesn't make me feel understood. Or if he's distracted while I'm talking to him, like squirrel, that would make me feel least understood. So the last question kind of tags on to what we were just saying about when do you feel understood and what.
What's one way you could communicate better when you're feeling misunderstood?
Right. And again, since we talked about that, I'll answer it. It's if I'm not feeling understood because I think he's distracted, it's my responsibility to not talk to him until I got his attention. Right. I need
That's
to
right.
say, when you're done with that, or can you give me a minute? And then let him finish what he's doing so that he has a chance to really pay attention.
And I think it's also if there's like I need I've gotten a lot better at saying, "Oh, hey, I need to do this real quick," and I'll be right back involved in the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. So if there was anything that we said tonight that resonates with you, we'd really appreciate if you drop a comment below. And we'd love to know what's sticking with you because we need to, you know, get better at this. And whatever is helpful, we want to do more.
So communication, this is just one of the many key areas that helps couples grow, that we help people grow in through the SYMBIS report. So when you take your SYMBIS assessment, that it goes into a deep dive on how you and your spouse or your fiance communicate or manage conflict, handle money, and more. So if you would like to do a SYMBIS assessment or schedule one with us, you can comment SYMBIS in the comments, and we'd love to talk to you about helping you on that journey. And it's very important. Like I said, we didn't have that assessment. We had the book. The book had just come out before we got married, and so we had the book, and I think probably a study with it, some questions in it that helped us through that. But it's a very valuable tool.
Absolutely. Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah.
So we want to thank you for joining us tonight. And we want to remind you that we'll be here the same time next week to continue our study of SYMBIS. And the next week, we're going to be talking about have you bridged the gender gap? So that sounds kind of interesting. If you want to find out more, please join us next week. And make sure to follow our page. You can find me also at Marcy Sullivan Coaching on Facebook, or Marcy Sullivan Coach, or sorry, marcysullivan.com for my website. And please feel free to share this video with others. Thanks so much, guys.
Have a great day.
Okay, bye.